All right, I think we can get started. I see a lot of people who have consistently made these meetings and appreciate that. I did send out an agenda. I'm going to try to cover most of the things in there, but it is pretty lengthy and I might reorder a little bit, but just remember this is an open forum, so please feel free to either put your hand up or just jump in at any moment here. There are not raising a hand is great, but even if you don't do that and you just want to try to talk, go for it. Since I'm looking at Annie and Rick Hubbard here, I'm going to talk quickly about the Pan Am Masters games that are going to be at the Cleveland Skating Club, where they also curl, where Annie and Rick curl. That's this summer. And what are the dates again, Annie and Rick? I got to open up the doc you just sent me. I'm just going to do that.
The festival or the Pan Am Masters Games will go from July 12th to the 21st, but curling will occur from the 13th until the 18th.
Yeah, so and then they have age categories in this event. So it's men are 50 plus, women are 50 plus, and then there's mixed teams of 35 plus. And the Masters Games, there's a Winter Masters Games as well, and that I think Brett Jackson, who's our chair, he played in that this past winter. But you can, if you're looking for something to play in the summer, I think it'd be a great choice. And, there should be lots of good international competition, and we're going to support it with some ice making expertise and officiating. And if you've never been to the Cleveland Skating Club, it's a great venue. It's like a country club, but instead of golf, they have a rink. So it's quite pleasant. So we are adding it to our calendar on our website. We did one social post about it. We'll put some other information about it going forward. Or if somebody wants to just email me for more information, or Annie and Rick, if you have their email. If you don't, I'll connect you with them if you want to share that with your club. So is there anything else we should add?
It's the first time it's ever been in the U.S., so we're really excited to be hosting it. It's been around for 30 years, so they have some good experience in running these games, and it's like a mini Olympics. So we're medals. There's gold, silver, bronze medals for every event. 26 sports are going to be represented, about 10,000 athletes throughout Cleveland. So it's going to be exciting, fun time to be here. So we hope you'll come curl with it. It's wonderful to be able to talk to curlers across the country and invite you to come. We'd love to have you.
You want to quickly mention the two websites?
Oh, there are two websites that you could go to. Obviously the Pan Am Masters Games Cleveland 2024. Cleveland Masters 2024, and then IMGA. Thanks.
Yeah, so check that out. I know lots of people like to do summer spiels at clubs, so this would be like a summer spiel plus, an upgraded summer spiel, better event. So thanks, Rick and Annie, for both organizing that, taking that on, and being on the call. I'll quickly touch on a couple things before I start opening it up for more discussion. We have a show called, there's a show called Tryouts coming up on ESPN. You may have seen a link to that. We're going to be featured in the May 22nd episode. They followed some of our players on the way to the mixed doubles nationals last year. So if you haven't seen that, there's a link in a social post, and we'll be promoting that a lot in the next little bit. We don't get to see it before it goes on, before it's showing, but we're told that the sport comes off well in it. I don't know if you saw, we've got a broom slam in the trailer, which I think was good because everything else is full of lots of intensity. So I think we needed, I didn't mind it, but just know that, they're documentary filmmakers, so they follow a few storylines with different players. So that's on the 22nd. We're talking about doing some watch parties and things like that for that. And then I'm just going to mention this because whenever I'm out and about, it seems not as many people know about the Everest North American Challenge, which is the event that's going to be on CBS Sports, where our club national champions play Canada's Club National Champions. The dates are September 17 and 18. It's going to be on CBS Sports. It sounds like it's going to be on at 7 o'clock. There will be more information. I think they're actually running a commercial about it during the Women's Worlds coming up. So look for that. We're excited about it. It's not actually like our event. It's Everest's event, but we're heavily involved and want to make it successful. So that's I'm going to stop just for a minute. I'll return to the agenda, but before I get too far, I want to just stop talking so people can bring anything up that might be on your mind before I get too far. So with those things out of the way, and I see Matt's here too, and one of our big discussion topics last week was working on a document or some guidelines for how to integrate new curlers into clubs. Lots of clubs doing different approaches. So Matt was kind enough to offer to try to compile those. I'm not putting you on the spot now, Matt, and asking you about your progress so far, but if your club has something that you think has been successful, please share it with Matt. With that, though, I'll just throw it open to questions for a moment. Oh, Queena, well, the agenda did go out in an email, I think, Queena, unless did nobody get the agenda? Geez, nobody got the agenda. All right, awesome. Well, I will, how can I do this? Let me do, because that was supposed to go out in an email. No. All right, we do need to start just attaching it as an email, so I'll make sure that happens. If you do see it, Brian's just put it in the chat so you can open it up if you're right now. And then I've added a couple things just for my own notes, but you should, let me just make sure that link works.
It's since it's on the SharePoint, if you're using a different like email address, it's the same issue as like the Teams chat or the Teams group, right? Like if you're using a different email address than what the invite was sent to, you probably don't have rights to access it for those that are saying they can't view it.
All right. Tell you what I'm going to do just for now, I'm going to drop it in the chat. So one thing that I know has happened is that people who have another Microsoft account have a difficult time with it, but there are, well, anyways, I don't want to get hung up on my venting about this technology, but there's the agenda in the chat now.
Actually, just because you had discussion, I was going to say I actually had a question related to this though.
Yeah, so fire away.
Well, I was just going to say, I know on that email that sort of went out about the team getting created, is it possible, like, is there somebody we can contact to add a different, so like I have a work account that I use my Teams through my work account, right? But all my communication through it is through like my personal Gmail account, which I don't have a Teams account tied to that or anything. Okay. Is there a way that we can like email somebody to say like, hey, can you also grant access to like my secondary email address?
Yeah, sure. You can send it to Mackenzie, who sends out those emails, but Mackenzie.Carbone, I'll put it in the chat as well.
Perfect. That'll be fantastic.
Frustrating that we haven't solved this yet, but.
Dean, just on that same point, really quickly, I have one with my work account and I don't want it to connect to my work account. So the only way to do it would be to create a Teams account with the, Orange County curling address that I have. However, it would require me to pay for a professional account. And if you just do a personal account, there's no way to access USA Curling's Teams area. Because I just tried this yesterday. And so I don't know if Teams is necessarily the best platform for this, if it's going to require everybody to have.
We may just have to use something else, or we'll quickly all get in the time machine and go back 2.5 years and use the Google Suite versus Microsoft 365. But barring that, I think that's probably the best idea. We'll shift it over to some other, whether it's Google or Slack or Discord, something else. So because this is becoming too big of a problem. Apologies. So Lauren's saying you shouldn't need a professional account too. All right. Well, I don't want to turn this into a Teams debate. So with the agenda in there, we will try to resolve this before the next meeting in some way. And maybe we'll just send out some test runs and see what else we can figure out. But the agenda is there. I think if there is anything from the last meeting that people want to bring up and discuss, I mentioned Matt's willingness to put together a sort of synopsis of the different approaches that different clubs use, which I think will be helpful. I see. And Amy, you had your hand up.
Yeah, hi. I'm Amy from Ardsley. I just wanted to, one of the things we're running into is competing bond spiels over, we have offerings in the spring, and then they just seem to run into a lot of busy weekends with other bond spiels going on. And I didn't know if there was ever an opportunity for us to have like some kind of shared calendar situation where we could make sure our bond spiels weren't like 3 on a weekend or 4 on a weekend, that in our area that would compete against each other, so that everyone had the opportunity to get the most participation possible, if there's a way to do that.
Well, I think we can just set that up in Teams.
Yeah.
Joking. No, I think that's a great idea, actually, because we put the as many spiels and events as we can on our website, but by that time it's already planned. So the thought is, how do you avoid conflicting spiels in your area and try to find open weekends? It does get difficult for everybody to find the right weekend, but I think that would be a good use of this group.
Yeah, I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
Especially in the busier January, February, March time. Seems like everybody there's lots of spiels in the spring.
And to do that, I think we need to get that populated fairly quickly, because I know most clubs start to work on their club calendar in May and June, or even earlier for the next year. So we'll figure out the best way to manage that, but I think that would be a good use of this group. So thanks for that, Amy.
Mm-hmm.
It might be something that we lean on our regional associations a little bit to help with versus the national organization, because I think if we look at it nationally, it'll be tough to avoid any conflicts, right? So.
Oh, absolutely. But if you can pick out where, in your area, you're like within 10 states of yourself, where your club is, you could probably plan better.
Yeah. Well, 10 states, unless you're out in the West, where it might be 2 states.
Maybe I'm more definitely, smaller states in the Northeast.
Yeah. That said, I think it might be a good thing for us to work with, our recognized regional associations on and try to make that as. I know some regional associations do that. Does anybody have a regional association that works on that?
Hi, Dean. This is Edie from Elton.
Hi, Edie. Yeah.
Hi there. How are you? MOPAC actually do that. If we give all, in the MOPAC region over here, if we give our dates, they actually coordinate it, and they have a list of all the different weekend bond spiels at Coyotes here in Tahoe and Oakland, and
right.
And all over. So that kind of gives you an idea of the ones on this West Coast side for sure, and in the MOPAC region. I know that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Jim, you have your hand up. Jim McMahon.
Yeah, we're kind of a sub-region here with the Twin Cities Curling Association, and we do the same thing. We've got all ours on the TCCA site from the 5 clubs here to Twin Cities, and hoping to move that out to Greater Minnesota, the MCA,
right,
and coordinate that. But there's a lot of bond spiels taking place on the same weekends because they're set in stone, over years.
Yeah.
So some of them just don't change.
There are probably lots of good lessons from the TCCA, Jim. So that's there's always going to be some conflict. I think, Jonathan, you have your hand up.
Yeah, once we have a system set up, I would recommend having old calendars available. That way people know that, because I would say 80% of the spiels are the same time of the each year. So that way
Right.
people can backtrack, have a good clue.
I think Jim's right in that most spiels don't like to move too much, right? They have a weekend in mind. It's probably most biggest thing for spiels that are willing to move or for new spiels. But yeah, we will. That could be a good piece of business for us to work on with regional associations on. Anything else
Great.
from the last
Worked really
meeting?
good.
Sorry, go
Oh,
ahead, Amy.
sorry, go ahead.
No, you
No,
go ahead.
I was really targeting new spiels. If we wanted to add one, it's kind of hard to figure out the best timing. So I look forward
Sure.
to having discussions on that.
Yeah. Any other things from the last? I will share. We talked about learn to curls and integrating new members. One thing that I threw on as just as a note to me that's now on your agenda was, one thing they do in Canada is they really distinguish between try curling and learn to curls. And the learn to curl segment is really about somebody doing a program for 3-4 weeks, or a rookie league, and try curling is like a 1 hour intro. And I know a lot of clubs do cocktails and curling and things like that, but it might be good if we could start to delineate those two things, and always try to be consistent with them, so that try curling is the basic intro and a learn to curl is for people who really want to immerse themselves a little more in the sport. But I don't know what people's thoughts are on that. I know we've sort of all landed on learn to curls, but you don't really learn to curl the first time you're out there. So I don't know if anybody, I see a few people nodding, agreeing, but I
like
just think,
sorry, Dean. I like
no, go right ahead.
the so it's like it's all terminology that we understand, but I don't know that it's obvious to the general population. We had this problem when we were in Orlando and we were trying to figure out what was the right juju to like get the audience to know, oh, this is a casual, this is whatever. So you almost have like the bucket list curling, which is the curling experience. I think I've actually heard that term used,
My
which is the
club uses
one-off.
that.
Yep. And then there's like curling 101 or curling 201 or however that you emphasize that it's a structured curriculum class. So like learn to curl is kind of useless. Try curling a little better because it seems like it's a little more casual. But I think curling experience and then something a little more formal that denotes it's a class would be a good way to go. But I mean, I don't want to like reinvent the wheel here. And if Canada's aligning, it's like, it'd be nice to kind of leverage what they're doing. But I think that's kind of where I land on this.
No, it's a good thought. I think, and the reason I bring it up is I just think at the club level, and I was a club president, sometimes just to Brian's point, we sort of lose sight of what people might take away from communications we put out there. And if I really step back, I might think learn to curl, I don't want to get hung up on nomenclature here, but it might just be something that maybe we put out some thoughts to clubs on going forward. I don't know if it's that's the biggest issue we face in curling, but it seems something that's was worth discussing. So that might be something for us to just float in the summer, and actually curling 101 and things like that. I mean, because I don't think you want people to come to the club and think they're gonna, there are people who just want to check it off their bucket lists, and that's fine. And then how can we convert the people who move on from that? I'm just going to pull up, since nobody got the.
Well, learn to curling programs are usually ours is over 2 weekends, 2 or 3 weekends. So, and it's a bigger commitment and it's more money. So I think it does distinguish itself just by the mere fact that it's more involved. Whereas you're not getting 30, 40 minutes on the ice in an open house or something. You're getting 3 days of like 6 hours or something. It's, 2 or 3 hours or whatever it is. It's a lot.
Yeah. And then the flip side is you don't want people to worry about something that's too daunting, right? So, and feel like they don't really want to do that big a commitment. One of the things that Bobby Ray always talks about is that in curling, we we have a problem where we we have a first date with someone and then we ask them to marry us, sort of thing. We want to get, and a lot of people are not really that excited to do that. So the other thing I guess in here that on the plan is we are looking at doing merchandise and having member clubs be able to retail. So what we would basically be doing is offering it to clubs at wholesale prices. And then we could, for us, looks like it'd be about $5 more to add your club logo to it, to a piece. And then a club could sell it in the club to generate some extra revenue. So that's something I'm sort of just interested as much as anything right now in feedback on that. What people might think, if that's something your club would be interested in or not. I might have floated it before, but I'll do it again.
Hi, Dean. This is Cliff at Triangle.
Yep.
So I got the email that you sent today about that merchandising, and I sent it off to our marketing people. They were not as enthusiastic as I thought they would be, mostly because of the time commitment and the parts about how much inventory you had to keep.
Right.
We already know from selling our merchandise, if you order 5 mediums, 10 mediums are going to show up to buy them.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be left with double extra larges at the end of the year. So this was their concern in ordering large amounts of stuff. And I think there was a number, but I can't remember what it was. I don't have the email handy. Well, I think that was the issue our marketing people had.
Yeah. I mean, one way we can get around that is clubs, there are some things with minimum orders, but clubs could also collect orders and then order, say, 24 or 12 or whatever they wanted, and go from there. So I'll share my screen just for a minute here, and I'll just show because I don't know if everybody got this. So hopefully everybody can see that now. So yeah, so the items, this would be the wholesale price for the club, so, and then the margins over here. Ideally, I think your thought, Cliff, is one we may have to wrestle with, and that can we do it more as a drop ship approach? Obviously something like pins, is an easy one, but some of the other ones, you're right, with sizes, might be something that clubs are wary of. We don't have to wade too deeply into this right now. It's just, we're always trying to find a few extra things to offer member clubs. This is one. I think it could be good, but Cliff, your point is one we need to figure out. So with nothing else on that, unless I see another hand up. So I will say, I know there are some people here from GNCC member clubs, and there was a proposal the GNCC sent, I guess, conditions and concerns for coming back to USA Curling. They sent it to the GNCC clubs. We received it at the same time, actually. So I guess overall, the communications I would give on that, and we're working on some sort of response. So overall, there's a lot in there that to us is a non-issue. Things like, first of all, no recognized regional association has any financial liability with the national organization. That's never been the case. It won't be the case. We're happy to provide some sort of statement on that, but it's never been the case. If a recognized regional association wants to collect playdown fees, that's not an issue for us. I mean, the reason we have gotten the practice of collecting regional fees is it makes it a one-stop shop for competitors. They just sign up once. And then what happens is in April, we reconcile those play down fees and return them back to the the regional association. But again, if the GNCC wanted to do it that way, that wouldn't bother us. I'll just, and we're going to put out a more formal document here, but number 5 was that no GNCC member club shall be forced to leave the GNCC and join another regional association. No club can be barred from joining the GNCC by the USCA. There's really nothing to suggest that we would do that. We wouldn't do that. We haven't. At the same time, I think we do believe there's value in regional associations with some defined geography. I would hope that maybe that just occurs naturally, but it's not a big issue for us. And the ones that are 1 and 2 are, have a little more nuance in our replies. Let's put it that way, that you'll see. But the GNCC did ask that about the board seat. We actually have a vacant board seat. We left 1 seat vacant. So the GNCC wouldn't actually have to wait for a reallocation if they were decided to come back. We do still expect that a director from any regional association still has to go through our nominating and governance and vetting process, which is standard for any USOPC NGB. I wouldn't imagine that we would ever, the board can't come in and say, oh, we don't want this person, but it does go through a process. And then the other one they had in number 2 was that the GNCC would have the right to immediately recall and replace its representative on the USA Curling Board should its representative vote in favor of any. Well, I'll read the whole thing. By accepting the GNCC as a regional association, the USA Curling Board will grant the GNCC the right to immediately recall and replace its representative on the USA Curling Board should its representative vote in favor of any proposal that the GNCC Board believes hinders the growth of curling and conflicts with the GNCC's mission to grow curling. So that one's fairly expansive. Let's put it that way. So I think it does raise some questions for us. That the reality is our intent and hope is that everybody comes back and that we can operate as one community and be teammates rather than rivals. But we'll put out our thoughts on it. Our idea has always been after we passed the new membership model, we asked the GNCC, we invited them to rejoin. And this proposal was their answer to that, I guess. But so those are we're not really that far apart. 3, 4, 5 are basically non-issues, and even these other ones, I just think any nonprofit board directors have a certain obligation to the organization they're a member of the board of. So we'll have to navigate that a little bit. But I don't know if anybody from any of the GNCC clubs wants to weigh in. The other thing, the main point I'll make is that anything we do here has to be applicable to every recognized regional association. So there's plenty of stuff in here that is applicable to all, but anything that's put out there has to work for everybody. It can't be one regional association has a different set of rules for it. So with that, I'll stop there because probably more than I planned to share even tonight, but I figured I'd talk about it and tell you that, and just let you know if you're clubs, especially if you're a GNCC club, we are putting some information out on this. Again, we're trying to be conciliatory as much as we can. No hands up? Or somebody just want to launch into it? Oh, there's a hand. John. Hi, John. Oh, you're muted. I blame Teams. There you go.
Oh, you got it?
You're a little low, that's all.
Oh, there it is.
There you go.
Better there. Okay. I don't use this. But yeah, I mean, I saw that proposal as well fairly recently. trying to digest it. In short, this is great context. Thanks. I trying to wrap my head around it and get a sense of the USA curling perspective on it as well. And for my part, I'm just kind of absorbing at this point. So, thank you for this.
All right, sure. Yeah, I mean, like I said, we'll have something more. We're drafting something right now that'll outline a few things. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just, one of our thoughts is that if the GNCC board is going to recall their director, if someone doesn't vote the way they want them to, there should be I guess, a process for that. But any regional association can ask their director to resign or not have them nominate them again. So, those are all, there's some stuff that's sort of standard board practice. I realize that, one of the things that I'll say too, and I think we're going to say this in our statement, is there's been this idea that in the past that everybody on the board, had to fully support everything USA Curling did. And I will say that we want our board, and I believe it is right now, a place where there's debate and, discourse, as there should be on any board. And, I would imagine that we would have votes that are things like 7-4, and that's perfectly fine. I think just the responsibility, if you read about most nonprofit boards, is that no matter what your feelings were on a situation, you continue to support the organization as a director, right? Doesn't mean you can't say, well, it wasn't my favorite idea, but it's another thing to just not support the organization at all. So I think that's kind of where we're at. I will say that with Brett as the chair, and I think I'm pretty open with the board when I work with them, that we are trying to encourage a lot of discussion. I'm trying to use the board as a source of expertise as well and information. So I think that past was misconstrued a bit. And I'm not going to say that maybe a lot of people thought, oh, it should just be everybody on board with anything, but that's definitely not the case right now. So. Ryan is in the chat, so maybe I'll just see what Ryan was saying. Website is broken. Apologies if that's broken. It hasn't been, but we will fix that. We did put our new policies and procedures up recently, or we put them up in October. I don't know what the problem is with it, but we'll sort that out. The GNCC letter, by the way, it just went to GNCC clubs. So, and it's not really, I don't really want to, it's up to them to how they want to share it. It's not really our place to share it widely, but we do think it's, we need to have some sort of response to it. So, anything else on that? More than anything, I just want to make sure that everybody in this group knows this is happening, and, we're trying to work through it, and, we'll see where things end up. On the other things on the agenda, host site needs, and we're close on a few of these, but for next year, really one of the biggest ones we need is Arena Nationals. And that event's in November. And it's for our curlers, probably a lot of them on this call, our most dedicated curlers in my mind, who play week in and week out on skating ice. So we've had that at Curl Masabi and Eveleth the last 2 years. It's not a great, it's difficult to put it in an arena where you used to put it in an arena, but it's really unmanageable from a cost perspective to put it in a hockey arena and book out a hockey arena for 4 or 5 days plus some ice prep time. That's a challenge when we're selling tickets for men's and women's nationals. So ideally it's 6 sheets. It could be a situation where there's a 4-sheet club and a 2-sheet club doing it together if they're in fairly close proximity. But I do think it's a great opportunity for a dedicated ice club to sort of show some support for that group, bring that group in, show them maybe what's possible, which, all of those, it's an interesting championship because just about everyone playing in it would really like to be ineligible for it. So in the future, they would all like to have their own places. So if your club has some interest, one nice thing is it could be like the kickoff to a season. It's a Thursday through Sunday event, so you might be able to put it at the start of a season so it doesn't really conflict with your general curling schedule. So that's one. The other ones we still have a few needs for, but we're closer on some of them, just at-large playdowns for next year. We are in pretty good discussions with a couple of clubs about those, but mixed, for instance, at-large mixed, we need to host an at-large U18s. Just so people know, if the GNCC were to return, those would become GNCC playdowns. But we don't want to be in a position where we haven't planned for anything. So we're just moving ahead with planning for those. I would imagine most cases what would likely happen was that the GNCC returned, that those clubs would just continue to take on those playdowns with the GNCC. So those are the sort of the main ones through for next year. I will say we're trying to look out, and we actually have championships sites booked through 2027. So if there's anything on the calendar that you think your club might be interested in the future, don't hesitate to speak to your club leadership, or if you are the club leadership, don't hesitate to email Aaron Kaler. You'll find him on our website, or me, and just express your interest in that, and then we'll get to you with all the details. So on that note, I will say that, if you do want to talk to clubs that have hosted in the past couple of years, you talk to clubs that have, and I'll answer that question in the chat in just a second, but if you talk to clubs that have hosted in the past couple of years, I'd suggest you do that. I think it's, we're certainly not perfect yet, but we're definitely, I think, a better partner than we were in the past. So if there's I do talk to clubs sometimes and they say, well, we hosted in 2014 and it was terrible. We didn't get any support. And all I can say is I agree, it was probably not good, but we're operating quite a bit differently on championships now. One other one there too is college nationals. That's another one we're still in search of a site for. And ideally that's on the East Coast next year. They like to move between the Midwest and the East Coast. So that needs 4 sheets. Just real quick, there's the question about, it seems most congruent that Arena National Championships should be hosted on Arena Ice. Don't entirely disagree with that, except that what we did in the past was we came in and basically transformed the Arena Ice into pretty close to our men's and women's championship ice. So it was probably better than most club ice. And the reality is that, I think for most of the people playing it, they like the idea of playing their championship on some really good ice in a dedicated ice club. And then the final piece of it, the organization was typically losing $10,000 to $15,000 every time that championship ran. So we can't really afford to do that. And that's what happens when you have to pay for time in an arena, as anybody who is an arena curler knows the challenges with that. So, I think a great opportunity would be one of our newer dedicated ice clubs. Like I said, we do try to find, it works best on a 6-sheet club, but if there's a newer dedicated ice club that doesn't have 6 sheets, we're happy to talk to you about it. Because I think there's value in that, in the people who come to that, learning from the people who have successfully completed the journey. So I don't know how many of you are on here tonight who have been part of that, but got nothing but respect for people who make it from being in arenas to being in a dedicated ice facility. So yeah, that's host site needs. Like I said, if you want to, if you want to start talking within your club, if you think there is an appetite to host something, please let us know. And again, it could be as far out. Heck, we talked to you about 2028, to be honest. So, any other questions on that? I don't want to go too long here because I want to make sure everybody has a chance to have more questions. I'll quickly just touch on the Coaching You Up program, which we did with Mikulski Health Force, and USA Boxing was the lead NGB, us USA Boxing and 3 other NGBs. So it's an effort to provide education and vaccination if wanted. Certainly in my experience, when we've put these in clubs and we had it at our national championship, there's no high pressure move to get vaccinated. And in fact, at this point in the year, there's really not expectation of vaccinations. It's about collecting surveys. And I guess they've collected plenty of surveys where people weren't really voiced their opinion on vaccination, which is totally fine. But all I'm going to say about that is, if some people wonder why we did it, and I think I said this before, but there's 2 things. First of all, we put probably about $20,000 in the pockets of member clubs this year through that program. If you had one, you know that. And then we also, as an organization, received money for it. And then the other thing is we think long-term, like other NGBs, it can show that NGBs together collectively can be a good way to deliver messages. So I'd love it if there's other kinds of things that maybe aren't vaccination, but something else. But if somebody asks you at your club, or if your club wants to talk to me about it, feel free to send them to me to ask about it. Then the other thoughts I had on here, we have our members meeting and assembly scheduled for, the plan is to do it in August. We haven't officially announced that yet, but I'll tell everybody here, we're looking at doing it August 9th and 10th. Members meeting on the 9th, and then members assembly on the 10th and 11th. It will be in the Twin Cities. This year we did look at some other sites, and in the future we want to move it around, but this year it'll be in the Twin Cities again. One of the things that we want to do is we really do hope to make it over time sort of a convention of curling. One of the reasons we moved it, in case people ask, we moved it to August, was that we found in the old date of October, a lot of people are really active in their club and likely to come are busy either putting in ice or opening up their club or whatever else. So that's why we moved it to August, and try to put it away from holiday weekends, et cetera. But, we have a few things like, we're talking about having a really good coaching conference at it. We're talking about having some on-ice sessions available for people to attend with our national team coaches and athletes. But, we've always done programming and sort of seminars, I guess. But we'd like to, if there are ideas that would make it more appealing for people to attend, we'd love to hear them. Or, I understand, it'd be great if there's, we're also, anything we can do to make it more appealing, we're open to hearing about. So I'll stop there and let anybody tell me why they would never go to a members assembly or what make them even consider it. And, we might put another ice tech course in there at the same time. Ideally, we're going to try to make it things that don't work as well and this sort of thing. It will be virtual as well, especially the members meeting. But I think if it's just online, sessions, doesn't really make it a convention of curling. So with that, I'll stop and tell me if there's anything people would love to see, fire away. Everybody hates the members assembly. they want us to discontinue it. Just so you know, what happens for people who aren't aware, the members assembly, the members meeting happens the night before. If you remember from October, we did the members meeting the night before, and then members assembly programming follows that. And I see Jim has his hand up, so we'll call on you, Jim.
Yeah, I can't let you just hang there like that. No, I think it's a great idea to have some sort of convention. I think that's a fantastic idea, and going down the right path with some of those ideas you're talking about. I think it just brings the whole curling community together. So, I'd be more than happy to help with that kind of stuff, since I'm based in the Twin Cities at Frogtown, and hopefully other folks can get on board with attending something like that during an August timeframe.
Yeah, so a couple questions in the chat too, but I agree with you. I mean, one year it was in Albany, and there was actually an evening of curling. So we've talked about, can we incorporate curling into it? We don't want to always have it in the Twin Cities. It's just that there's a couple things that line up for it. We have our mixed doubles pre-trials are at Chaska that same weekend. So we're at that club. We'll have some ice time at that club. So there's a few things that line up. But the idea is to move it around. It also was just, we didn't have another good site on tap, but if another thing for this group, if you think members assembly in the future in your area would be a good thing, please feel free to talk to us about it, because we do want to move it around. Yeah, the dates, I mean, no date is ever going to work for everybody, but hopefully like I said, a lot of people, if you're heavily involved in your club, the first or second weekend of October isn't very good, because you're doing a lot of things. Unless you're an 11-month of the year club, you're doing a lot of things at that time of year. Vendors where curlers could buy new shoes, brims, t-shirts, other merch, or merch from other clubs, from Vanessa. Yeah, that would certainly be a good idea. And I think that's something we could easily find people to provide.
Hey Dean, how many people in the past do you reckon have attended these kind of meetings?
It's been, yeah, good question, Edie. It's been a little bit all over the map. I mean, some have been really poorly attended. Obviously, last year was not well attended, but it was all sort of online programming, and we were more focused on the members meeting. So I guess the short answer to that is we only have up. So we would just like to increase from even our best year, which, for any number of years that we've been doing this. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Hey, I'm gonna just put in a link to the policies and procedures manual that does seem to work, but anyways. Sorry, Rick, you've got your hand up.
Well, you asked what types of things might attract people, and for me, having any type of skill building sessions, either on the ice or tactical discussions from some of the best curlers in the association, is very, very attractive to me.
That's good to hear, because that is something we're planning. So, I do think game improvement things is always good for people. Obviously, I think if we do manage to work an ice tech course in there, I think that's something that, if a club has an ice tech who would like to attend, it's a good thing it's a good investment for a club to make. So, but yeah, one of the reasons we're doing it in the Twin Cities is because we will have ice at Chaska throughout that weekend, so we can do some extra things. And I'm talking to Jeff at Chaska about that right now.
Great.
So just for the person who said the link was broken, if you go in our website under governance and then you scroll down to the bottom, there's policies and procedures, and that link does seem to be working. That's a good idea too, Amy. On ice official training. We always have trouble trying to find good times to train officials, so that should be part of it as well. So basically the things we do normally, but in one spot, which kind of makes a lot of sense.
Hey, Dean, this
Yeah.
is Eric Has. And all those suggestions I agree with. I think they make a lot of sense. Taking a slightly different tack, I would find it more palatable or appealing to go someplace that I would want to go on vacation anyway. I mean, and disguise the meeting as a fun trip. And I don't know what that would mean, like Disneyland, Disney World, or have a golf and curl kind of outing. Just package some fun in, so I don't know that I'm actually working.
Sure. You don't, Chris Lisney says the Twin Cities is a great place for vacation, especially in August. I was gonna weigh in on that, but well, obviously there are other destinations though. Sure, I'd love to go to Helena, Montana. One of the things is like where we do it, Wesley brings up a good point that if we make it a really difficult, an expensive place to get to, that will certainly cut the attendance. If Vegas gets this dedicated facility they're working so hard to pull off, that would obviously be, I don't know about Vegas in early August, but we might all incinerate. But other than that, there's certainly, I guess I'll throw it to this group in some ways. Part of this is what I want to do. If there are, you don't have to have all the ideas tonight, but if wherever your club is located, if you think there's something about your location that would make it appealing. I think after the men's and women's nationals in New Jersey, I don't think I can get people back here in August in New Jersey, but as much as I love New Jersey. So, yeah. But those are all good thoughts, actually. I think we just, it would be great to actually, something like officiating, which I don't know, for some reason we hadn't really discussed yet, which we should have, because knocking out a bunch of officiating training at this would be fantastic, because we're always trying to fit it in around other events, and that's not the best. So that's a great idea. And Eric, I like your idea too. I mean, go to Montana and fly fish and talk a little bit about curling sounds pretty great too. But
I like that. And Vegas is always fun. I mean, it might be hot during the day, but that's why they have swimming pools.
So we'll meet around the pool is what you're saying, Eric.
Absolutely.
All right. Obviously your area is pretty good in August. So
I think Lake Tahoe would like to host this going forward.
Well, there is. Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
There are also one reason to try to make this a bigger thing, but we need a bit of a track record, is if you can make it bigger, you get CVBs. Like for instance, in Dallas Fort Worth, there's money available if you bring a large enough event there, meeting, championship, whatever. So unfortunately, right now we just don't have much of a track record to say, oh yeah, we're going to have a couple hundred people at this thing, right? So. But that's something in the future, and a place like Tahoe in the summer might want to bring people in.
Yeah, and there is a company called Lake Tahoe Visitors Authority, and that's what they do. So it might be something that we could actually even look at speaking with them about, depending on, just for future, nothing immediate, obviously, but it's maybe something that in the future that could be looked at. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone in this group wants to talk in their local community, I mean, it's the same way the members assembly is with our championships. We'd love to get them planned. We are working, we're not there yet, but we're working to get out of this everything of the moment planning. So, we're not there yet. We need to book some things out in the future more. There you go, Last Chance Curling Club, where I love the energy up there, actually. I would like to be your club, but judging from your online presence and from discussions with people there, I love the energy at Last Chance. So, and again, if we could get this Teams thing working, we could share these ideas in between, but there is the email list. The other thing, just any other questions and or new business or things you'd like us to put on the radar for future meetings. Chris has his hand up. Chris Lisney from St. Paul.
Yeah, I'm just interested in, you mentioned, like, I think it was in your minutes, and then somebody mentioned it at our board meeting, the National Curling Center thing that you guys are talking about. I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I could talk about that quickly. So we actually have a architecture firm working on some renderings of what that might look like. So it's something tangible that we could, share with municipality sponsors, donors, et cetera. We would, it's an ambitious goal and it's a long-term goal, but having a national curling center somewhere would be great for us. For one thing, even just hosting championships, we do think that there's a real opportunity for a country that builds a say some sort of facility that can be used for general curling, but can also say seat 2,000 to 3,000 at most, and be TV ready and host major events, etc. So I think to make that tangible, we wanted to get some renderings. So we're actually I'm meeting with them tomorrow to talk about that. That was one of the ideas out at with Viking Lakes, and that's not off the table at Viking Lakes. It just went on hold. But it's the kind of thing where if we have it, and we have a plan and what it would be like and events that would be there and how many people, would come to it every year. I think then it's also something we can shop to a municipality to see if there's, some sort of public-private partnership. But I think we have to make it tangible and real. We can't just be like, we want a national curling center. So we got renderings and some plans on how that would be programmed and what it would produce for a community. We are working on this document too, just about the value of any curling facility in a community. So hopefully that's something we can share before long for people who are trying to get a place built. So yeah, that's I'm glad you brought that up, Chris. That's a bit of new business. And again, it's certainly not something that there's going to be shovels in the ground tomorrow or anything, but I think it's worth having that ambition. And it would be on a much smaller scale, but it would be sort of like the idea is it could be like our Flushing Meadows is, we would have events there, et cetera. That is one of the pillars in the foundation too, by the way, for people who don't know that. There's 4 pillars in our foundation now. If you go to the foundation page, and I'm not here soliciting donations from all of you, but we did break it up into specific giving buckets. So that's, one of the, you can see those on the website too. If you go under about into the foundation, you'll see how that's structured now. Hey, Robert, where are you? What arena club are you with? Oh, in lacrosse. Look, I'm open to having it in an actual arena, but it has to be at a price point that we can handle, right? And it depends. It's not just the arena giving us a couple hours; it's the arena giving us, basically 6 days, a couple days to prep the ice in an arena, and then 4 days of competition. So again, not opposed to it if someone has a good solution for it. I guess I met you. I'm talking to you in the chat here, but I guess I met you at Arena Nationals, I think, right?
One thing I do gotta say too with Arena Nationals on like more consistent ice in general is we are trying to show that community what quote unquote real curling is, because they think hockey ice is curling ice and that there's no difference. So that's one thing to show that there actually is a difference.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly does it pretty starkly usually. So, like I said, I have nothing but respect for our arena curlers and what they go through to play, because, and that's actually, that's actually one of the, one of the things I think that makes it appealing to put it in a dedicated ice club. So I think there's two schools of thought there for it. I was at the Arena Nationals in 2017. I think they asked me to throw out the first rock back then. Maybe that's because they still thought I was a decent curler back then. But and the ice was in Pennsylvania, and Kevin Madsen and some of our regular ice crew was there, and the ice was pretty awesome. I mean, but they were there for a couple days as well. So. Any other new business or, and again, I apologize for the fact that Teams is a dud right now, but we'll figure that out, because I would like to see be able to facilitate more communication in between these meetings. Is there any feedback from your club leadership that anybody wants to share? Or if you are a club leader, if there's any feedback you want to share about things, whether it's the membership model or anything else?
Dean, I don't know if you saw it. I've got my hand up here.
Oh, sorry, Liz, I didn't see it.
Liz from Cape Cod. I just wanted to comment on, we just hosted Leah Yavro with the athlete outreach program.
Great.
And it was great. Everyone loved it. She did a great job with we did a junior and Little Rock program. And then she also did a program in the evening with our adults. And the adults who attended everyone took home a ton of information from her. She went out on the ice with them, worked with them, gave them a lot of great feedback. So it was terrific program.
That's great. Thanks, Liz. I appreciate that. And Leah Yavaro, I think she's great. So I'm glad it was successful. And yeah, I know Sioux Falls in South Dakota just had Chris Plies last weekend. So just so people know that if you want to, you can reach out to us. There's a form, or a WUFU form, where you can request to have one of those at your club, and then typically Jenna Brzeski or Jenna and I get on and talk about what the day might look like at your club, and then we line up the athlete for it. Bill Peskoff from New Jersey was the one who's really made that program possible. He donated $50,000 towards it. Just maybe you've already heard this, but to try to make it sustaining, we do ask the club to, if you do an adult clinic, you charge some money for that, so some revenue comes back in, but then we're compensating the player. Believe me, it's not Aaron Judge compensation by any means, but we're compensating the player for their time, and we're paying their travel, and then that takes that away from the club. So there's really no expense up front for the clubs. And quite honestly, I'm proud of the fact that we are paying players. We invited, the invite went out to, elite athletes. It wasn't strictly program athletes either. So I am proud that we're actually compensating, American curlers who go through quite a bit to curl. They're providing their time. It's not like they're mailing it in either. So obviously from the feedback so far, they're not just showing up. And I think Cliff had one in Triangle, and Lauren Rich has mentioned in the chat that Laura Dwyer, one of our para curlers, is going to be at Bowling Green doing an adaptive curling clinic. So our wheelchair curling athletes are involved as well. Well, we're coming up on 9:07. I was saying I like to keep these to an hour, and that's because my experience with other groups is if we go beyond an hour, we start to lose good people, because good people have tight schedules. So I swear we're going to get something sorted out here so that people see the agenda in advance. and we can facilitate a bit more communication. I do think, Matt, I'm just, because you're in my eyesight here, is there anything you would like from, has anybody sent you any of the examples of what they do in their clubs for integrating new curlers?
Yeah, I'll tell you every single one that I've gotten so far, and that's all the ones I've gotten. So,
so if
yeah,
people
just request for solicitation. I just love to get some ideas from people, how you're integrating
I'm typing
new
mine
members,
out
how you're
now.
trying. Sure.
I'm sending mine to you now. So
great.
I apologize.
Thank you. Thank you. And then we share them out, and then when someone's trying to figure it out, then they don't have to reinvent the wheel. Thank you. Thank you, Liz.
Yeah, so if whatever you do at your club, feel free to share with Matt, even if you don't think it works well. I mean, it's what I think what would be great out of that project is that clubs can see different ways of doing it, because I honestly think that it's each community, each club probably has a different way that might suit them best. But in our experience with conversion rates and getting people to come out to, if they experience curling once and then they do either a rookie league or a learn to curl, making that experience as positive as possible has a real impact on conversion rates. So I think Cliff, I'm looking at Cliff, your triangle has one of the better conversion rates. I'm not sure exactly what you folks do, Cliff, but you have one of the better conversion rates I've heard. Maybe it's just your general enthusiasm.
Well, it's possibly that. We have a lot of good people here. I mean, we're a 100% volunteer club, so that's so we have 3 levels of training twice a season, and that's the tri curling, where you're on the ice for an hour. That's it. You maybe throw 2 rocks. Then if you like it, you come back for a learn to curl, which is 2 hours. You probably play 2 or 3 ends at the end after you learn. And then we have an 8-week instructional league, where the first 6 weeks are all instruction, the last 2 weeks are gameplay, and then you're ready to join the leagues. And that's all we do. We just try to make our instructional league as fun as possible, except for the first day. First day, they don't even touch a rock. It's just balance drills. So they all go away sore, but happy.
Happy? That sounds horrible, Cliff. I don't know. But yeah, no. Like I said, different things will work, and it may depend on who you have in your club, what you can do, may depend on how many, even what the capacity of your club is. So whatever you have, share with Matt. Not dumping it all on you, Matt, but having more content will certainly make that easier.
Yes, thank you. Yep, just email me that stuff and I'll happily compile it and share it.
Anything else that anybody would like to? Oh yeah, the Wufoo form. Vanessa, I will share that. It should be. I'll put that in the chat too. Oh, there you go. Brian got it. Thanks, Brian. All right, so with that, I guess I'll wrap it up. It's 9:11. We're a little beyond an hour, but unless I don't see any other hands up. But if, again, I appreciate all your time. If you're, on your board or something at your club, hope you share some of this with them. If you're not, I hope you do as well. And, feel free to reach out to me or Lauren Rich, who's on this call, or Mackenzie, if questions come up in between these meetings. And if you gather some questions from members at your club before the next meeting, that's great too. So hopefully we can tackle some of those things. Appreciate everybody. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.